Hey guys, I'm Fancy.
And I'm Colleen.
And this is Murder by Design. Last week, we took you through Alissa Turney's life growing up. We included clips from the interview we did with her sister, Sarah. Today, we're diving into the investigation, false confessions, and how Michael Turney has avoided prosecution for Alissa's disappearance. And we have more of our interview with Sarah to share. So let's dish.
You have a background in law enforcement.
Yes, I do.
You know that oftentimes the first person they look as suspect might be family members.
They always look at the family member first. That's just standard 101 investigations.
So why take it as such an insult?
I didn't take it as an insult. I took it as fighting with someone for 6 or 7 years to get them to do what I wanted them to do.
But Mr. Turney, by refusing to answer their questions, as a former law enforcement person yourself,
I didn't refuse to answer their questions.
Don't you see how that would raise eyebrows?
No, because that's a lie. I didn't refuse to answer questions. They were calling me every day, asking me questions every single day.
But they wanted to sit down with you.
And they would have gotten that. All I had to do was set the time and the place, and it would have certainly occurred.
Well, let's clear some of the things that they're saying about you.
No, that's fine.
At the beginning, the detectives were very focused on Heimer. They thought maybe he had done it. But as they began to interview her friends, some disturbing things start to surface.
Oh, yeah.
And they say that among them was the feeling that you were obsessed with her. You've heard this before.
It's on the affidavit, yes.
That you were very controlling.
Yes.
And very strict. That you had her sign contracts. You followed her around. You interviewed parents of any new friends of hers. Do you feel that went far beyond what a normal parent would do?
Oh, it depends on who you talk to. If it would avoid anything happening to my daughter, yes, I don't think it was far beyond. At the time, I look back at it because she ran away as a result of that. Yeah, of course I feel bad about it.
Other people said you were demeaning to Alissa, that you made her feel stupid.
That's an absolute lie. I wouldn't allow that with Alissa because I want Alissa to have good self-esteem of herself.
But her friends said that you were demeaning to her. You called her stupid. In a phone call that has surfaced since then, you called Alissa a bitch.
Really? See, I'm not aware of that.
It's on a recording.
Well, then fine. Let's bring all the recordings out. I got no problem with that.
Did you call her that?
Did I call Alissa a bitch? I don't remember. I very well could have one time when I was mad at her. Who knows?
That's demeaning.
I guess it is.
So what were you planning to do?
Just bring attention to Alissa.
How are you going to do this?
Take a shotgun and blow my head off. That's what I tried to do in '94.
And what about the firecrackers and the bombs and the explosives?
What bombs? You mean a few little flash things that would make some noise, just to make noise? You can't kill anybody with a pipe bomb unless you stick it down their throat.
Police say you were going to bomb the local union hall.
Sure they did that because they don't understand that you can't take that building down with a bomb. You can't burn it down. It's an
You weren't going to do
inflammable
that?
building. What?
You weren't going to do that?
Not in the least bit. Why? I'm going to murder a bunch of innocent people? That sounds insane.
Mr. Turney, you say the government's out to get you, the union's out to get you, the Phoenix Police Department's out to get you. It sounds like you think the world is out to get you, and it sounds a little delusional.
Well, that's what they investigated. I just went and talked to the government's forensic psychologist. She said I had a paranoid personality, but she didn't say delusional.
Do you think you have a paranoid personality?
You ever wore a badge and a gun?
No.
You ever been in the military?
No.
Guarantee you'll have a paranoid personality after that for the rest of your life. That just comes with it, the experience.
Tell me why we should believe you.
Why you should believe me? Let's see. I don't know, probably because the fact that sometimes when people tell things that seem to be so irrational, sometimes they aren't true.
You're not capable of killing your stepdaughter.
I didn't kill my stepdaughter. I'm not capable of killing my stepdaughter.
Let's recap a little. Alissa went missing on the last day of her junior year of high school and has never been seen again. The day she went missing, her stepfather claims that he had a fight over Alissa's freedoms while living at home and that Alissa must have run away. Sounds familiar.
Yeah, right?
However, she took nothing with her, left her bank account untouched, and honestly, if you're a high schooler running away, that money is key.
Key.
And none of her friends were ever contacted. You're going to tell your best friend, you're going to tell anybody that, hey, I'm ditching. Don't tell my dad where I'm going.
Right.
Nobody believes that Alissa just bailed. What's more likely, based on some of the sick behaviors Mike showed towards Alissa, that he took her life and got rid of her body. So tonight we're going to take a look at the investigation and the evidence.
In this case, I keep saying this, but it just pisses me off because this one is so cut and dry to me.
Yeah.
It is completely cut and dry. And the way the police have handled this is just outrageous, and you know me, I back the blue, but so often there are bunglings of these types of investigations. But I think a lot of that always has to do with, are these police officers equipped with the right things and tools and different resources to actually investigate these things, or should they call in an agency that is?
Well, and I was going to say, like, if, are they, compromised in the sense, do they know this person too well? Do they have some bias? Like with Drew Peterson, all those abuse cases, they let him go because he worked with them. And,
Right.
His wives end up dead because of it. And he didn't get arrested for the last murder because they couldn't find her body. And so this is essentially that same case, but with his daughter. And with the amount of evidence there is regarding him sexually, physically, mentally abusing her.
Right.
And then, oh yeah, she left, but she didn't take anything with her. She didn't take the money. She didn't tell anybody.
Her backpack, Sarah describes it as it was dumped out on the bed and rifled through. Her phone was still there. So she didn't take any money with her, so she couldn't go buy another phone. She didn't take her phone with her, so she can't contact anybody. She didn't tell any of her friends that she was going anywhere. She was supposed to go to a friend's house that night because it was the last day of freaking school and, hang out and stuff, and she never shows up or anything. Are you serious? Really? I mean, yes, there are runaways that run away and, but they generally take everything they want with them. First of all, they take some things with them. None of her clothes were with her, nothing. You're telling me she just ran away, a teenage girl just ran away, and she didn't even think to put makeup in her bag or and she was the type of girl who did, who wore makeup and stuff like that. And I know that's silly to think of them taking that with them to run away, but that's what a teenage girl is going to think in their brain. Oh, I need my makeup, I need my cell phone, I need my, my favorite hairdo stuff, I need my pants, I need my shirt. Nothing. She takes nothing.
Well, especially, you're running away, and if you're not going to bring the money with you, then you're not going to be able to afford those things, so you would take them with you.
Right?
And seriously, I think the biggest thing is that as a teenager, especially at her age, if you're running away and you're running away from your abusive dad, you're going to tell your friend, somebody, or your sister that I'm leaving. Right, that I'm leaving, and I can't tell you where I'm going, but I am leaving. Do not, tell my dad where I'm going.
We're going. Right.
But I want you to know I'm safe.
They're going to run. Honestly, I ran away as a teen. Okay. You know where I went? My best friend's house.
Yeah.
Seriously, I ran away to my best friend's house. And then I ran away to other couple of friends who were a little, that were a little older than me and were kind of, a little shady, right? I ran away to their house, but it was right down the street from where my mom lived. But no, my mom didn't know where I was. But, I didn't just run off and nobody knows where I am. That did not happen. And I was in an abusive situation with my mom, quite abusive. My mother was a juvenile diabetic. She was on tons and tons of medications that made her very, very, very angry. And I love my mother. Don't get me wrong. I think my mom, she's a great person and one of my biggest champions. I was just talking about this with Colleen just a few minutes ago. My mother was a great champion, and my mother was the most amazing grandmother ever because she came off of a lot of medications, and she realized that she apologized to me for being an abusive mom when I was growing up. And when my mom became one of my best friends, and when I lost her, it was devastating. But as a teenager, God, yeah, I ran away. I didn't want to be there. The day I graduated, I packed all my shit and left the next morning. And my mom was like, "Where the hell are you going?" And I was like, "I'm out of here. Bye. I love you, but I gotta go." And I realized I just couldn't live with her. But
in high school and in middle school, routinely about every month, I was staying at a different friend's house, especially in high
Right.
school because, my parents had my brothers, and having
Right.
infants in the house is much harder in high school. And so I would stay with my best friend Sam or my best friend Alyssa or Cassie. I'd literally be like living at their house for weeks on
Yeah,
end.
absolutely.
And it was great because a little bit more freedom, different rules, different experiences, got to do more things and have more fun and free and
Right.
relax. And even if she doesn't tell her friends, she would at least tell her sister.
Or her boyfriend. If
Right.
she was going to run away, don't you think she would have run away with the boyfriend? Like, seriously?
Yeah.
I mean, they were getting very close. And what happened, honestly, I think she was, and this is kind of what Sarah said, I think that she was getting really close with several of her friends and their parents and her boyfriend's parents, and she was beginning to talk. And he couldn't have that, so he got rid of her.
Yep.
And it's sad. It's really sad. And the things that he says about her are super creepy and weird. And he talks about her, the certain ways that he says things, he knows she's gone.
Yeah.
Like, you absolutely know that she is gone, and he knows that she's gone, and that he knows when she was gone. There's just certain things he says and the way that he says them.
And it's so similar in the sense with like the Gypsy case, in that these girls are teenagers getting older. They want more freedoms. They're more likely, they're starting to tell things to other people. And, in that case, Gypsy had Nick kill her mom, whereas Alyssa's dad just knows that she's going to talk, and obviously, and so then he has to get rid of her instead.
And he's got surveillance cameras inside of vents and all over the house and taping her phone calls. That is just some creepy shit, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
because he knows what she's going to say. He's listening for it.
Yeah, and listening to see whether she was going to implicate him at time. And it's nothing new. It's not like she hadn't been saying something, but now people were actually taking her seriously, because she started saying at age 9 that he was sexually abusing her, and it's nothing that nobody's heard before, but nobody did anything. This just boggles my mind. Well, when Alissa went missing to mid-2001, the police didn't take the disappearance seriously, as often they don't, in these types of cases. They never came and searched the house. They never questioned the family or the friends, and pretty much just dismissed it as one more runaway case.
This happens way too often.
It does.
All the time. Like, I remember, and we'll be coming out with it again shortly, but like with the Jamie Kloss case, like, her parents were dead. There were a lot of, kind of rumors circulating that she had a hand with killing her parents and ran away with a boyfriend. And that was the complete opposite of what happened. But so I think, if a teenage girl goes missing, it's automatically thought of, oh, she just got a boyfriend, ran away. Like,
well, here's my thing about that. I don't understand why it's looked at like that. They are still minors. They are still vulnerable. They obviously have run away. Where are they? It is not just, oh, well, sorry, they ran away. We can't do anything about that. Like, I don't understand why that is the idea. I really don't. They're still minors and they're missing. And if they've gone out on the street, it is obvious bad things are going to happen to them. So I don't know why we take it that way. Why it's thought that way. Oh, well, just another runaway. Never mind.
Well,
I don't get it.
I'm wondering if it has to do, like, in the 60s and 70s, when a lot of teenagers were ditching, their homes and their parents to go have some more freedom, protesting and everything. So they were running away then. And I think the problem is that a lot of, police officers and people in charge, at least in the mid 2000s, and still a couple of them now, are ones that were around during that time, even if they were teenagers or just starting out on the force. So they have that misconception that if teenagers are that they just run away and, it's fine, because they were doing that back in the 60s and 70s.
I just don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. If my daughter was to run away today, if she was to get angry and storm out of the house and run off, and within an hour or two didn't come back, and I called all her friends and she wasn't there, I would call the police and I would be like, no, I don't give a shit whether you think she ran away or not. You need to go look for her.
Right. It's the thing is that, you know, if that was, you know, acceptable or more understood in the past, it's not anymore.
They
Their
are in
sex,
severe danger, and they are in
yes.
danger of all the sex trafficking and
Yeah.
everything else. These girls, you know, if your kid isn't a drug addict, if they run away and live on the street, they're gonna be, you
Right.
know,
And, you know,
like
they're at risk of rape, sexual assault,
sex
risk of
tra-
violence,
having
sex
to be
trafficking.
prostitution, all of that.
Right.
So
And
why would you even remotely take this stance of, well, they ran away, sorry? I don't get
right. I think it's a laziness almost.
it.
It's better to not have to deal with it at all and just chalk it up to running away and not have to actually do the work to look for them. But so, like we said, the police didn't put much effort into looking for Alissa, but strangely, Mike didn't give up. He placed posters all over town, contacted police with a wild scenario after scenario of how Alissa may have vanished. One story even went as far as to suggest a few members of the union he was with took to her to intimidate him. Weird, really weird. And so Sarah describes some of the stories her father came up with.
Right. So when you're looking in the file, you said there was a lot of times that your father was calling and saying, hey, can you investigate this? Why are you not looking into that? I mean, do you think that was just him trying to keep that facade up, or what do you think was going on there?
Yeah, so I think it's a mixture of things. I think part of him wanted to, yes, keep up this facade, but I think a part of him was also kind of like taunting them, you know, because he realizes that he's pointing them in the wrong direction. You know, he continually points them at the IBEW, the union. He makes up this entire story about how two men from the union killed Alissa, and he had to kill them, which, you know, we can prove that that didn't happen. So I think it's a mixture. I think that he was trying to keep the spotlight off of him by presenting, you know, all these alternative theories, but in another sense, I think it was kind of his way of keeping his finger on the pulse of it all and being right there in it and taunting them while absolutely not being helpful in any way.
Oh my goodness. So he admits that he kills two other people, but it's not true. That's, I mean, I hadn't heard that part of the story. I heard the part about, you know, him blaming the union, which in of itself is totally fucking crazy. I'm sorry, pardon my French, but, you know, like it's totally crazy to even think that a union would be like, oh yeah, we're mad, we're at a dispute with each other, and we're going to kidnap your daughter and kill her. That is just absurd. Like, I mean, we're not living in the Jimmy Hoffa days, like, you know. But for him to then say, well, I had to kill those two guys, like, that just seems so insane that he would, you know, admit to something he hadn't done like that, you know. Wow. That's just crazy.
I mean, the case pretty much went cold until 2006, and a perceived huge break in the case led investigators to take the case a bit more serious and open up a real investigation. Not that it helped at that point. I mean, it was, you know, 6 years later.
It's, to me, it's so obvious why he took more steps. Like, he's trying to cover his tracks, make him look like he's the caring parent.
Right.
Yep.
He's calling them all the time. He was like literally harassing them. It was crazy. And the story that we're gonna hear from Sarah herself as she describes the story that her father told about these two union reps. Oh my God, it's insane. He claims that he murdered them. He claims that they were trying to take Alissa, and that's why he killed them. Like, oh my God, it's just absolutely absurd. And it's like, oh, they don't take that seriously. They're like, yeah, he murdered two guys. Yeah, nah. Okay, so obviously, if you don't want to take that serious, then why would you not take serious the fact that the girl is still missing? Years and years and years and years. Like, she never contacted her sister.
You know, he murdered somebody that's violence. You're not going to be like, did he murder his daughter?
Did he murder his daughter? Like, I don't know. So a self-proclaimed serial killer, Thomas Heimer, nicknamed Psycho, claimed he was Alissa's attacker and that he had murdered her. In 2003, Heimer was convicted of killing his girlfriend, Sandra Goodman, 2 years prior. So in 2001, he killed her. And in 2003, he was convicted, and that was the same year that Alissa went missing. So Alissa went missing in 2001, so he kills his girlfriend in 2001. He had been pulled over in the early morning of December 16, 2001 by sheriff's deputies and local police in Gray, Georgia, when he was spotted driving Goodman's 1996 Honda records state. But she had been found the night before, strangled and stabbed in the neck under a bed at a motel where the two had stayed, according to the Broward County Medical Examiner's Office. So she's found dead. He's driving her car, so they pull her over.
That's some overkill. Like, you strangled her and then stabbed her in the neck, like,
and then threw her under a bed. Like, yeah, like crazy.
And psycho.
Psycho. Well, there's his name.
Well, so at the time of his arrest and his conviction 2 years later, he never gave an explanation as to why he took Sandra's life. But in 2006, he contacted authorities from prison by a series of letters and said he was willing to talk. And he told investigators, quote, "I'm going to make you famous. I'm a serial killer."
What a lunatic.
Seriously, lunatic.
Like, these stories are crazy, too. The things, and they're very graphic. The letters that he wrote, they're very graphic.
Right.
So the letters he wrote were unbelievably creepy. And in them, he claimed to have taken the lives of 21 women. The FBI came on the case, and Heimer picked Alissa's photo out of several pictures he was shown. He claimed he met her in Phoenix in 2001 when he was there, and investigators had absolutely no reason to believe his story, and many of the details he gave were not credible. So during the questioning, he described how he became sexual with Alissa in a hotel before he strangled her to death like he had done with Goodman. And he told them he put her in a tub where he cut her body into parts to dispose of at a recycling center. Holy crap!
I mean, that's so dumb for that kind of story, because how much evidence is left behind. You literally, you cut somebody up in a bathtub, there's blood all over the place. Then there's no way to clean it. If somebody took a light into that bathroom, you would see it. Cough, cough, the don't F with cats. And Michael Alick. Like, you see that's not even remotely.
But I mean, it just didn't line up with anything, because he goes on to describe Alissa as a heroin addict, and that just didn't line up in any way with Alissa, or anyone close to her. Knew she didn't do drugs. She maybe she smoked some pot, but she wasn't like shooting it up, And many of the details changed as the investigators questioned him more, of course.
Of course. And like, was she even in Phoenix? Why a hotel? Why did he get her, why did she even go to a hotel with him?
Yeah, right. It just doesn't make sense. And this is very common. Like, I didn't know this until I started investigating serial killers more and learning, like, I knew certain things, but as we learned and learned about different ones that I hadn't really heard about, there is a extreme thing for this to be happening, that they decide that they're going to take credit for murders that they didn't commit. I mean, one of the most prolific ones of this was Henry Lee Lucas, who claimed that he'd done hundreds and hundreds of murders and stuff, and it really came down to he killed one girl, and it's crazy, but it's something that they do because it puts back attention on them, because they crave attention, and in prison they don't get any,
Right, they want some street cred in the prison.
Right.
They want the attention, because there are the weird girls who message and send letters to serial killers in prison.
Right. And they also like that investigators, they come, they take them out of wherever, they take them into a room, they're given, special snacks and things, because they're trying to entice them to talk, and they do this, and it happens more than you would think. And I never understood why we would take credit for something like this. But I guess if you're in for a penny, in for a pound, like,
like if you're in prison, if you got life or you got 40 years, like, why not make up more stuff?
Yeah, right? Why not?
Well, and the one thing that to dispose of at a recycling center, no, if you're cutting somebody, like, and this is going to sound terrible, but I mean, we have these kind of conversations all the time. If you are going to take the time to cut somebody into pieces, you're not just going to ditch them at a recycling center. You take like a body part, bury it 12 feet underground in one area, take another part, do the same thing 50 miles away. Like,
or you take it to the water, you're not just taking it to a recycling center. Not to mention, as we've talked about in the past, it takes a lot of effort to actually cut up a body.
Especially not
as simple
do
as
it
people
well.
would say.
Right. We talk about this Joseph Scott Morgan all the time.
Right. And like there's noise. Like, okay, so you think about, oh, well, if you did a chainsaw, it would be, and not in a hotel, somebody's going to hear that chainsaw and be, what the hell is that? Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, and if you're trying to saw, it's very hard. It's very time consuming. It takes hours and hours and hours. There's blades that you have to have specifically to cut certain parts of the body, right? You know, it is not just an easy, well, I just cut her up and that was it. It's not that simple, folks.
Well, and
it's really not.
And bodies smell. And if you start to cut up a body, it's going to start smelling faster because you just exposed every piece of it to the environment. And so even, you know, you think, oh, recycling center or a dump, there's a difference between garbage and a body, like in Casey Anthony's car. There is a difference between, you know, moldy and, you know, gross pizza and the smell of a dead body.
Yes.
Different.
Yes.
Very different.
But Sarah gives us some thoughts on the strange confession from Heimer.
So when Thomas Heimer confessed, like what were you thinking then? Do you think, oh, it's over, we finally have an answer at that point? Had you at that time, had you begun to suspect your father at that point, or were you still kind of on his side?
Yeah, so when Thomas Heimer confessed, I think that was like 2006 or 7, so I would have been like 16. So I remember it being like a total non-thing in our house. Like at one point I was made aware of it, and I don't know if that was from the police or from my father, because this was also around the time when I became the family contact. So I received all the updates and scheduled things for the case and whatnot, but it was never a thing. Like my father wasn't upset about it. He wasn't worried about it, as opposed to what I see now in the documents where he was, you know, making dozens of phone calls about this and wanting answers immediately. He turned around to me and it really wasn't a big deal. Like he had been much more upset over other things. So in my mind, you know, when my dad says it's not credible, I believe him. And at that point, no, I never thought that my father was involved. Not at that point.
Well, Heimer's confession did finally spark an investigation into Alissa's disappearance, so I'm glad at least something came of it. But in 2008, a search warrant was issued for the search of Michael Turney's home, so her stepdad. Investigators were not prepared for what they found during the search. That's an understatement.
They were not. That is a total understatement.
Because the search unearthed a 96-page manifesto named The Diary of a Madman Murderer. They found 26 pipe bombs, numerous guns and illegal silencers, and a van on the property which was filled with gasoline.
Not like gasoline in the tank, like filled with gasoline in there that he was going to use to like blow up things. And there was also fire bombs found in there too, like 3 or 4 fire bombs. It's crazy.
That's insane. 26 pipe bombs, people.
It was like, and I guess they were like, the pipe bombs had stuff on, and I don't know anything about pipe bombs. I'm not an expert bomb person. I don't know anything about it. But apparently there was something on the pipe bombs that was even more worse because it would have extended how far the shrapnel would go and how much would be released. Like, that is crazy. So he really wanted, whatever he was going to do, he was going to enact mass damage. And in the manifesto, he talks about the fact that he was going to take him to the Union Hall to take out the people who supposedly took out Alissa. Like, oh, for the love of God. It's just weird. So at this point, Sarah had become the point person for the police because of a strained relationship between Mike and the investigators. Go figure. Right. But she was still on her father's side when she called in the station because investigators called a break in the case. And, you know, they called her in. And the thing is she told us, like, in our interview, and if you guys want to hear more of the interview, because we're playing a couple clips here, but if you want to hear the whole interview, which is very lengthy, you can go over to our Patreon account at patreon.com/truecrimewives, and you can get to hear the whole interview. But she talks about in that interview about the fact that, you know, she was 13 or 14 when she started handling the calls from, you know, police, media, whatever, because her father and them it just was bad. And so she's the one who was a point person. Can you imagine being 13 years old and having to be the point person for your disappeared sister, who you believe is probably dead?
That's heartbreaking and so traumatizing, like, because she's still a kid and having to do her own kid life, but then having to be the responsible person to actually speak correctly with law enforcement and media and become an adult way too quickly about such a serious topic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so she sat listening to them very frankly tell her that her father was now their main suspect. They believed that he also molested Alissa and that her house was going to be raided. Sarah shares a bit with us about her feelings before she flipped on her dad and how she dealt with the police at that time.
So
Wow.
when did you flip? I mean, when did it really become in your mind that you were like, you know what, I think my dad did this? Like, that's got to be a hard realization.
Yeah, so it wasn't until I was like 21 or 22, probably like 2010-ish. And it took a lot to get there, right? So the police investigate and they sit me down and say basically, the only person that it could be logically is my father. They say we've run out of leads. There's nothing else we can do. It makes the most sense that it's him. And they raid the home and they find the largest bomb and gun bust in Phoenix history. And even after all of that, I did not believe that my father did it. And in 2009, he goes on ABC 2020, and the whole entire show paints it at, to be him. I was approached by them, and they said, we want to feature your sister. And in the end, it very much became of how my father did it and why they thought it was him. And again, even after that, I didn't think it was him. But then slowly over time, the comments online from the 2020s started resonating with me. I started having more open conversations with people around me, spitting out the idea. And then eventually I asked my father outright, he was still in prison for the bombs at this point. So we're over a recorded prison line. And I asked him, what is going on? Like, this doesn't make any sense. I'm scared. Like, I don't know what to think because I think it's you. I outright asked. And he doesn't say, no, sweetie, it's not, we need to talk about this. This is a serious accusation. Like, none of that. He just, skates around it and doesn't really say anything about it. And, I go back and I ask him a few more times over, I'm not sure, maybe the next couple of months or so. And I get the same kind of responses. So it's this huge culmination of things that took many, many years for me to finally say, okay, I think it's him. I'm on the same page as you guys now. Yeah, I think the most frustrating part is that the police and I were on the same page at one point, So when I come around and believe that it's my father, I'm not hiding from the police. I literally, email them right then, and I'm like, how can I help you? I see what you see. I want to help you get prosecution, because that's been my thing from the beginning. You can look at emails from when I'm 19 and living with my father and obviously not believing that he did it. And I say, I apologize for my father. I don't want anything to stand in the way of getting justice for Alissa. I was always never on anyone's side until he was arrested, and then I kind of helped him legally. But I'd always been pretty open with them that just tell me what the truth is, and I'm there to help you. So we do, right? And they ask me to ask him certain questions, and they ask me certain questions. I start giving them things that I find in the house that they could have missed in the raid. And it's this partnership, and they say, what we're going to do is prosecute your father when he's when he's released from prison, because if we arrest him while he's still in prison, he'll be able to combine sentences and, serve a lesser sentence, and we don't want that. And I'm like, okay, cool. I have no reason not to trust them. They're the cops. They want this. Sounds great. I don't know. I'm 20-something. I don't know how all this works.
Right.
So I trust them completely. Yeah, I trust them. And then a few days before my father's released from prison, I get an email saying that the 2 detectives are reassigned. To which I'm still okay, it's over. We already have our conclusion. They said that they're going to arrest him. What else is there for them to do? Again, not concerned, whatever. And then he gets released and no prosecution. And a few months later, they say, listen, we're not going to do it without a body. Your best chance is media exposure.
Okay, but what are they wanting? What are they wanting from media exposure? Because, media exposure isn't necessarily going to bring a body back. I don't know.
Right. They said that, they wanted a witness or a body. So, you know, if they could find a witness, they could lead to the body. They also told me that they were going to have a billboard on every freeway in Phoenix with Alissa's picture on it, and gave me none. And a few years later, when I brought that up, the commander of the unit turned to me and said, Sarah, who said you were even going to have a silent witness campaign? Like, ever since those two detectives were reassigned, it has been nothing but lies and them being deceitful and being, you know, crappy. And, yeah, that's when I started recording them. And, like, that's this whole next part of Voices for Justice is really getting into what the police did and didn't do at this point. Even if we found Alissa's body, I could not tell you that 1,000% we get a conviction, because I don't know with them. It's like the flip of a coin, because they're so unpredictable and they don't always do the right thing or tell the truth.
So Sarah, in shock, blankly stared at the investigators and simply stated, "Am I free to go?" She was escorted home, and what she saw was absolutely unfathomable. So now she's 19 years old at this time. Like, can you imagine being a 19-year-old who has grown up thinking your dad was the most amazing person in the whole wide world to you, and you've had your sister's missing now for, you know, so many years, and now you're being told that your father molested your sister and that they're raiding your home. I can't even begin to think of what this poor girl was going through.
Right.
And so she shows up, and over 100 area residents of Phoenix had been evacuated. They gathered around the taped-off streets to watch the Phoenix Police Bomb Squad and officials with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives operate. So she was allowed to enter her home to quickly retrieve a few items and her 3 dogs, but she had to be escorted, and she wasn't given any details. It wasn't until she watched the news later that evening that she would learn. In a news conference, police said they had executed a search warrant on her home and the home across the street where they had lived when Alissa had disappeared, looking for evidence in Alissa's case. And they, quote, said, "This is the largest seizure of IEDs the Phoenix Police Department has ever made," said Phoenix Police spokesman Sergeant Andy Hill in 2010, describing the devices as pipe bombs.
Right. So IEDs, those are, you know, if you step on them or you throw them, it's like a tripwire and it'll explode. They're very, very common in the Middle East because you can make them at home. Very easy to do, and they cause massive explosions. So if you see the videos of cars being blown up or homes that suddenly just boom go off, it's typically because an IED was planted hidden under some dirt and you don't see that it's there, and you step or trip the wire, and
yeah, totally.
So 26 of those, massive
and then
damage.
3 fire bombs. I don't even know what a firebomb is, but it sounds dangerous.
Yes, sounds dangerous.
It sounds very dangerous. I don't know. It says fire and bomb. That does not sound like a good combination.
Right, some guns. But this
tons of guns, silencers. Oh my God.
Right, that's frightening. And so in that 96-page manifesto, the aforementioned titled Diary of a Madman Martyr, Michael had written that he had believed the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers had abducted and murdered Alissa. He had worked in the electrical field in the 80s and had complained about workplace conditions, which is what Sarah said. He believed that the union had held a grudge against him ever since and had kidnapped Alissa as punishment. Okay, so in the 80s, you had a disagreement with the union, and so in 2001, they come and kidnap your daughter?
Kick your daughter? Get out of here.
No.
Oh, get out of here with that shit. Like,
that's ridiculous.
Like, Pinocchio, your nose is growing. Like, you know.
Right, do you know how many people complain to a union? They don't have any want or care or desire to go kidnap a daughter because you complained once about working conditions. Nobody gives a shit.
Who are you, Jimmy Hoffa? Like,
right. Nobody cares.
So he goes on with this wild tale that he wrote, and says that he killed 2 assassins who had killed Alissa and buried her remains in Desert Center, California. Oh my God.
These are 2 more people that he has said that he killed.
Right, and he wrote that he had an operational plan to continue to seek revenge by blowing up the Union Hall by driving an explosive-laden van, could that be the one with the gasoline in it, into the building, then shooting any survivors who came out the front door, according to a U.S. Attorney's Office in Arizona news release in 2010. And afterward, he decided to, commit suicide. That's what he was going to do. He was gonna himself. Like, I just can't even. I can't. Like, why are you gonna shoot just random people? These people aren't the people. You said you killed the people that did this to Alissa. So why are you gonna go and kill these random people?
Well, and most likely, you said you complained in the 80s. The people who are there in 2010 most likely do not work there.
Well, I think it was 2008, but still
not working there. Still not working there.
So the investigators said the raid came in just in time. The union's next meeting was scheduled 4 days later, and authorities had certainly prevented a mass murderer, they said.
Frightening.
Freaking wackadoo, man. Wackadoo.
Well, and so we just interviewed Elaine Smith, wonderful woman. She worked for the FBI, helped crack open the mob cases all over the country, but specifically big ones in Chicago. But then after 9/11, she started working with following the money of the Taliban after the 9/11 terrorist attacks.
Right.
And so we talked a decent amount about, the Middle East, and that's my biggest fascination. So a gasoline-filled van, when it rams and explodes, because a fire will ignite when you crash something, then the shrapnel of that vehicle is going to expand and kill people. But then those pipe bombs, 26 of them, most likely what people do when they build pipe bombs is they put things inside that when they explode will kill more people. Typically nails, long sharp nails will
shrapnel.
go in there.
Right.
Yep. And so that those explode and kill more people. But one thing that's really interesting that I don't think he maybe understood how the hell it was going to happen was that if you are driving a van with explosives in it, you're not able to jump out of the van to then sit across the street to shoot people coming out. You die. It's called a suicide mission. You die. The only time I have seen successfully somebody do this is that there was nobody in the van actually in the car itself, because fun fact is that ICE has developed vehicles that drive with a robot, so they don't have to kill themselves when they explode.
Right. Mm-hmm.
This is not that. He was going to drive and think he was going to jump out of a vehicle if the next blast radius distance that it was going to blow up the Union Hall, but then he was going to jump out and shoot people. Idiot.
So let's take a moment real quick and talk about one of our amazing sponsors. So you guys have all seen Stephen David Lampley on our show quite often. And if you've been on any of our Facebook pages, you've seen that we've been taking some classes from Stephen at his institute, the Oliphant Institute. And let me tell you, I am in love with these classes. They are super informative. It's, it's for the person who wants some information but isn't degree seeking, so he does some serial killer stuff. Right now we're doing human decomposition and the homicide. He's going to be doing a big study at the end of the human decomposition on insects and decomposition and how, different things that can happen with bugs and homicide. It's super interesting. So he is offering these classes for $20 a piece, guys. This is great news. And it's an hour-long class. So you come in on a Saturday, you take an hour-long class. He has several different classes each Saturday. And he repeats them often. So if you miss one, you just come back and take it another time. And you even get a certificate at the end if you want. So I would definitely suggest, if you're wanting to learn more about true crime and the different types of investigations and different things that play into, investigating a homicide, you should totally check him out at Oliphant, LIPHANT Institute.com. Well, the manifesto and weapons were not everything they found in the house during the search. Next week, we're going to dish all about the other things found, why Mike has still not been prosecuted for Alissa's disappearance, murder, or suspected molestation, and we'll hear all about what Sarah is doing now to bring justice for Alissa.
So if you'd like to support Sarah's quest for justice, we created an exclusive Justice for Alissa merchandise at our TeePublic store. Check out the link in the bio to purchase. And a portion of the profits will be given to Sarah to continue trying to find justice for her sister.
Yeah, she's put up a billboard lately. She's got her podcast that she's doing. She's been asked to speak several places. And I think she's working on some sort of media deal with I think the last time she said was Netflix, but then I heard again that it wasn't Netflix. So she's working on something though. So, but all of this takes money and effort and time away. She's not able to really work a real job or anything. She puts all of her time into trying to help Alissa. So if you guys can support her there by purchasing one of our t-shirts, then, you know, we're going to donate all of the profits to her. So, and they're really cute. It's a heart with little butterflies. It's super adorable. So, but guys, thank you for tuning in tonight. Next week is going to be really awesome as we look into all of that stuff. You're definitely going to want to tune back in.
So after we finish with Alissa, we're going to be really deep diving into the Laura Bible and Ashley Freeman case. There was a documentary made called Hell in the Heartland, and we actually did an interview with the investigator who did that case, and she's in that documentary. It's a fantastic interview. The case is fascinating, and it's still unsolved. And so we're going to be talking with Todd Matthews in our upcoming season, where we're doing a podcast exclusively on the missing people, because he was the head of NAMIS.
Right. So it'll be our new podcast will be about missing and unsolved mysteries. So yeah, so we're really excited about it. I can't wait to get that started. Hey guys, so a couple nights ago, we launched a special campaign along with Cheryl McCollum from the Cold Case Research Institute called Love Wins. And what this is it is our answer to all the chaos that's kind of going on right now. The chaos from the riots, the chaos from all the different, you know, pandemic, everything that's happening in our lives right now, all the issues with, you know, the different lost lives that we've had from before the protesting, after the protesting. So all the lost lives that have come out of this, the lost lives of COVID even. And so #LoveWins is a movement to usher in peace, and knowing that above all, the only way that we're going to get through all of this is loving each other. So what we're actually doing here is we are creating a scholarship fund in remembrance of all the lost lives in 2020 so far, and ushering in peace. And this scholarship fund will go to anyone that wants to go ahead and enter to win. The criteria is really cool. All you have to do is make a 30-second video of yourself and explaining to us how you lead with love. And we are looking for college-age students that are, you know, struggling. Maybe they can't get scholarships. Maybe there's a reason, you know, that they aren't available for them, or it's just not enough for them. And so this is our way of helping out. We're hoping to raise about $5,000. If we raise more than that, then we'll look into giving more than one scholarship away. The way that we're doing this is we have some merchandise. It's #LoveWins merchandise. And there's also Lead with Love merchandise. They've got shirts, cups, mugs, stickers, anything you could possibly want. And we're going to have it on a couple different platforms. Currently, we're doing some on TeePublic, but I'm working on some on Cafe Press too, because they have a lot more variety of merchandise. And so we'll be donating a portion of the proceeds that we collect on this merchandise to the scholarship fund that we are creating. And then we also have a GoFundMe that will be listed in the show notes of our YouTube show and our podcast, and you guys can click on it and you can donate any amount you'd like, and all of the proceeds from that are going to go ahead and go to the scholarship fund. And we'll be showing you exactly how the money is distributed, how it's collected. We're going to be very transparent with this. We're working with some amazing professionals that from like Cheryl from the Cold Case Institute, Stephen David Lampley from the Oliphant Institute, the leading death investigator, Joseph Scott Morgan. So we're working with all of them to really show how much love wins over everything and bringing peace to a country that we really need it right now. So that's what we're doing. And we're going to go ahead and play our entries at the top of every podcast and every YouTube until we choose a winner. And our special guests that we have each week, the different people that come on and are here with us, Cheryl and Stephen and Joseph, they'll all be a part of choosing that lucky winner or winners, depending on how much we end up getting donated. So I hope that you guys join us in #LoveWins. And we hope that we get some really great entrants, because we really want to see how you lead with love. Well, thanks so much for tuning in and dishing true crime with the Good Wives and Murder by Design.
Don't forget to join our Patreon member club to get exclusive mini episodes, inside documents and pictures from the case, live YouTube discussions, our exclusive discussion group on Facebook, and get some amazing Good Wives merch. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at truecrimewives.
And for more inside information, check out our podcast, The Good Wives Guide to True Crime, on any of your favorite podcast players. Have a good one from The Good Wives, serving up true crime one dish at a time.